In London, they had 3 electric buses catch on fire back in January 2024, and these were 3 separate dates in January. This is a trend across the world where we're having a number of electric buses catching on fire. I'll start with this incident that happened in May of 2021, and this incident happened in China, and you can see it was a charging-related incident. One bus caught on fire, and then it just ripped through the line, bus after bus after bus. And when you look at any bus depot, that's how they store their vehicles. They're putting those vehicles as close as they can together, and that can cause problems once you have some type of charging-related fire. And for whatever reason, it seems like a lot of these buses that caught on fire were charging-related. Now, this next fire is spectacular, and most everybody has seen this fire already. It happened in Paris in April of 2022. But what most people don't realize is there were actually 2 buses that caught on fire on separate dates in Paris in April of 22. The first bus fire was on April 13th, and then later on April 29th, a second electric bus caught on fire. Since that time, they've actually suspended these buses in Paris, and I've checked with some contacts I have over in Paris, and those buses are still offline. What many people don't realize is when you're talking about a vehicle like a bus, you can put the high voltage batteries pretty much anywhere in that bus. Down low between the frame rails, in the roof, on the back end of the bus, the front end, it doesn't matter. It just happens to be wherever those manufacturers decide to put those batteries. And in the case of the bus in Paris, those batteries were roof mounted. And then there's this bus fire here that everybody attributes to being an electric bus. In fact, this is absolutely not an electric bus fire. This bus runs on compressed natural gas, and what you're actually seeing are the tanks venting. Those are safety vents on the bus, allowing pressure to be relieved from the tanks. This actually happened in April of 2022 in Perugia, Italy. And when you look at the aftermath, you can see the burnt-out tanks on top of this bus. In May of 2022, London had an electric bus catch on fire, and this was related to charging. Because these buses are parked so closely together, it makes it very difficult to control the fire, to stop the fire from traveling from bus to bus to bus. It's also typical to have a bus parked inside of a depot, and that makes firefighting very difficult. I've been to multiple bus fires inside of a depot, large building, and it's very difficult to get in there, get the line stretched, and fight that fire. Now you make that an electric bus, especially an electric bus with roof-mounted batteries. This fire happened in Indianapolis, Indiana, on June 15th, 2022. This was a diesel bus that they converted into an electric bus, and they had a fire in one of the modules. Luckily, due to where the module was placed and how it was constructed, it was fairly easy to put this module out, and the fire didn't extend into the rest of the bus. Unfortunately, in Hamden, Connecticut, it was a much different situation. This bus actually caught on fire on July 23rd, 2022, but the story's a little bit more complex than that. On July 20th, employees were charging this bus inside the depot, and there was some type of error. They took the bus out of service, but they left it inside the depot. 3 days later, on July 23rd, 3 a.m., of course, every fire call we have starts at 3 a.m. when we're nice and comfortable in bed. But at 3 a.m., this bus started smoking. Fire crews got on scene. They assessed the situation, but the smoking stopped. They ended up moving this bus outside of the depot, out into the parking lot, which was fortunate. They cleared at 4:30 a.m. They got another call for the same bus at 7:30 in the morning, and this time the bus was on fire. They arrived on scene. They fought the fire until 15:30, when the fire was finally out. Now, this specific bus, you can see what the battery modules would have looked like prior to the fire. They're all roof-mounted batteries. And after the fire, you can see the majority of those batteries were destroyed. But guess what? That same bus caught on fire again, and it happened 2 days later. What time did the tones drop? 3 a.m. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, another electric bus fire related to charging. This bus caught on fire on November 9th, 2022. In May 2023, an electric bus caught on fire in Wichita, Kansas, doing over $650,000 worth of damage. Now, this fire started in the roof-mounted batteries on this vehicle. The batteries went into thermal runaway, even though the vehicle wasn't charging and it wasn't in operation at the time. One thing people don't realize, these batteries do not like moisture, and a lot of these incidents, they can be attributed to moisture, water getting into the batteries, specifically when you're talking about roof-mounted batteries on these electric buses. And that's the thing, a lot of these electric buses, the batteries are mounted in the roof. It's very difficult to make sure you have a watertight container. It's very difficult to manage the water, to get it to flow where you want it to flow and not inside the battery. Because if it does pool up inside that battery, if you do get large amounts of humidity inside that battery, it causes corrosion and can eventually cause some type of fire. In San Jose, an electric bus caught on fire while it was being worked on by maintenance inside a garage. Now, this happened in September of 2023, and the employees were actually able to push this bus out of the garage into the parking lot. Unfortunately, some of the employees were injured in the process. Now, even though this is an electric bus, it doesn't always mean the batteries caused the fire. Sources say the fire actually started in the front of this bus, and it was not battery related. Which brings us to the 3 separate electric bus fires that happened in January 2024 on different dates. After these fires occurred, there was a recall, and they recalled 1,800 electric buses in London to do an investigation to understand why these buses caught on fire. And it's a little puzzling to me. When I look at these fires, everyone's a little bit different. One, I think for sure, was thermal runaway, and it appeared that all 3 of these fires happened in the rear of the bus, and that's where the batteries are located. This is the Enviro 400 EV, manufactured in a partnership between ADL and BYD. And what really frustrates me is when I looked into this bus, and not just myself, I've reached out to multiple contacts, it was extremely difficult to find the ERG, Emergency Response Guide, for this specific bus. Now, I was able to track it down, and this was thanks to my friends with the EV Rescue app. This is a great app. You can download it free on your tablets, your Android, or Apple devices. It contains all the ERGs for North American vehicles. And thankfully, they had a connection and they were able to get me the ERG for that specific bus. And it confirmed a lot of my suspicions because I found different pictures of that bus, the chassis, where the batteries might be located, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I wanted to confirm those details because, again, each one of these fires that happened in January happened in the rear of the bus. And while not all of them looked like thermal runaway, one specifically, this one here, definitely looked like thermal runaway the way this vehicle was burning. Now, in London, after the investigation, they stated these fires were actually caused by the HVAC system. And while the batteries might not have been the cause of the fire, if you look at the videos, it does appear that some of the batteries did go into thermal runaway. Overall, putting the fire risk aside, there's a lot of other issues with electric buses across the country. And many of these issues go back to a company called Proterra. There are a lot of municipalities that have these electric buses and they're completely unusable. And also realize there's a lot of different strategies for alternative fuel buses out there. And with these other alternative fuels comes additional risk, including this one here, where 4 firefighters were almost killed.